Governors State University held its first ever Civic Engagement Fair on Tuesday, October 22nd. Held just 2 weeks before the 2024 presidential election, the event was put on by the university's Office of the President and the Students Vote, Students Learn coalition. The fair was a place for students and local residents to gather and learn about our electoral system while also having the chance to register to vote, participate in games, and walk away with prizes. Attendees could earn tickets at the various booths by answering some civics-related questions or participating in other activities, such as predicting the way that swing states will vote this year, or by casting a mock presidential ballot. This event was hosted in the Hall of Governors on GSU's campus and ran from 11:30 to 2:30. While the booths held the attention of most visitors, a live DJ provided some background music, and a projector displayed documentary programming covering the history of elections in our nation. A few familiar faces also made their way to the Civic Engagement Fair. President Green and GSUTV Jaguar were both in attendance, encouraging passersby to register to vote. Jax even cast his own mock ballot, indicating that he would be voting for himself in the upcoming election. With the 2024 election cycle wrapping up in a few short weeks, the polls are no doubt on the minds of many Americans. Come November 5th, Americans will be casting their vote for president, with many of those people voting because of events such as the Civic Engagement Fair, which encourages U.S. citizens to register and turn out for Election Day. For GSUTV, this is Graham Taylor. On October 24th, Governors State University's Center for Community Media hosted an open panel featuring 3 local reporters and broadcasters. The theme of the panel was The Future of Local Media, and the event was held at Embredston Hall on GSU's campus at 4:30 p.m. The CCM hosted the panel in order to give students and up-and-coming media professionals a chance to ask questions of people who have already had a chance to work in the nearby markets. The guest speakers included Tiffany Walden, the co-founder and editor-in-chief of The Tribe, and Amethyst Davis, the founder of the Harvey World Herald, 2 local independent digital newspapers that serve the Chicagoland area. Tom Callahan, who goes by Sensitive Visuals online, was the final of the 3 panelists and works as a cinematographer and director based in Chicago. The panel was moderated by Julie Keck, the director of the CCM, who rose to that position at the start of this semester. Keck has served on the advisory committee for the CCM for 2 years prior to becoming its director, and is also currently teaching at GSU.
In my life before Gov State, I was an impact producer, so I would do a lot of work with documentary filmmakers and other media makers to help them find their audiences, get their work out into the world. So I actually have a lot of experience producing events and getting to talk to amazing people, so it was nice to use that muscle again. So this event was in the works before I even got here. Dr. Novia Pagone, who was the director before me, picked out that topic and had started reaching out to people. And then when I got here 2 months ago, I started reaching out to my networks to fill out the panel.
While Keck directed the first series of questions at the speakers, the microphones were eventually opened up to the public, allowing them a chance to ask questions. Naturally, a majority of the questions were centered on the topic of local media, though the guests did share information about themselves, their background, and their creative process, as well as some of their favorite pieces of work they've contributed to over the years.
We don't necessarily have much that we draw from with like the national perspective. It's more like regional and trying to think about like connecting this community that's long been deprived of policy discourse and discourse at our institutions and change making with trends you see across the Chicago region and looking at the Great Lakes. As it currently stands, a huge chunk of what we do is cover public meetings and really trying to do big issues-driven reporting.
The Future of Local Media was an insightful, successful look at some of the local and hyper-local media production that happens around the city of Chicago. The Q&A session also offered a chance to let young media hopefuls themselves get their questions answered by a collection of distinguished creators. The CCM, which hosts a panel like this one at least once a year, is already hard at work preparing for next year's event.
You know what? CCM usually does this fall discussion annually, so we'll definitely have one again in a year, bigger and even more exciting than tonight. And then CCM also helps host the Story Slam that is put on by the media across the curriculum program, so you'll see that in the spring.
For GSU TV, this is Graham Taylor. The Governor State chapter of the National Student Speech Language Hearing Association held their in-person fall meeting on October 9th. The group gathered to discuss upcoming events and projects, as well as to participate in a bit of autumn-inspired art by way of pumpkin painting. The NSSLHA, referred to as NISLA by some of its members, is an organization dedicated to assisting students with hearing, speech, and communication disorders. The president of the GSU chapter, Isabella Knack, answered some questions regarding the group after the meeting adjourned. The start of this semester marks the start of her presidency.
So day to day we attend a lot of our courses, and we that are really focused on communication and helping people learn to communicate when they have difficulties communicating. We do a lot of volunteer work, and we do a lot of events to help make awareness for communication.
Knack has been with the group since last spring and has overseen all of the group's activities so far this school year. Currently, they are planning on hosting a donut sale fundraiser at the end of the month, on top of working on a stroke awareness song that the group plans to film a video for as well.
Currently, we're working on developing a song for Be Fast, which is a stroke awareness thing, so we're working on developing a video for that. And we do a lot of work with helping people communicate, and we just spread awareness for communication needs and how to communicate with people who have difficulties communicating. The rest of the year after that, we are probably going to do a couple more volunteer things. We're going to try and figure something out for later in the semester. We're planning on doing something possibly with the FDC for like an angel tree type situation, where we accept donations and gifts for children in need whose families are not able to afford presents.
The chapter is also on the lookout for more members, so students interested in the group are encouraged to reach out regarding membership.
If they want to get involved, they can come down to the CDIS office. It's in the F wing of the building. Like right when you walk in the F doors, you turn left, and you go straight down the hallway, and our lab is over there as well as our CDIS office, and you just come on in and talk to Miss Borelli at the desk. She's wonderful. And sometimes our grad student Jane is there as well. She's wonderful as well. Or any of the professors that are down there, they're great as well to talk to and mention your interest in joining NISLA.
For GSUTV, this is Graham Taylor.
Good evening. My name is Jada Thompson, and I'm here on Monroe Street in downtown Chicago, where Partum Health is hosting the Move and Mingle event to shine light on maternal and pelvic health. This past week, Partum Health hosted a Move and Mingle event for women in all stages of life. They were expecting mothers, new mothers, and some women who never had kids but wanted to obtain more knowledge of their bodies. This event showed women different movements for prenatal, postnatal, and pelvic floor benefits. Do you think this class helped prepare you for birth?
Definitely. I think the pelvic floor stuff is really helpful. So I do a lot of pelvic floor things on my own. I have a chiropractor. I do pelvic floor stretches. I do Pilates. I do yoga. So I feel like I have a good wealth of knowledge, but this just kind of added to it.
The event had a Q&A panel discussion with Dr. Sarah Reardon, who has been a pelvic health physical therapist for 17 years. She gave insight on what a pelvic floor is, how to properly train it, and when to know the right time to reach out for help involving it.
We have the ability to advocate for ourselves, and we really have to be the drivers in our healthcare experience. I don't think that we're always the information isn't going to fall in your lap. So I think that people showing up here today is just really a testament that people are wanting that information. They want to go back to their physicians and advocate for themselves and start pelvic floor therapy and be proactive in their healthcare.
Partum Health provided small snacks and other refreshments for guests, along with information on who they are, what services they provide, and helpful information on women's health. Participants were encouraged to stay behind after the event to mingle and get to know women who may be going through the same experiences as them.
So Partum Health provides specialty care to pregnant and postpartum women and families. The care is provided kind of complementary to OB care, so we offer things like doula care, both birth and postpartum. And then clinical services like behavioral health, lactation, physical therapy, obviously, and nutrition.
This is Jada Thompson reporting live for GSU News.
A 22-year-old member of the Massachusetts Air National Guard has pleaded guilty to charges related to leaking classified information over the messaging app Discord. Jack Teixeira served as an airman first class at Otis Air National Guard Base on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, where he was given top-secret clearance to documents, including information on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. He released this information online under the username The Excalibur Effect in a private Discord server, claiming to have stuff for Israel, Palestine, Syria, Iran, and China.
By knowingly and improperly posting classified national defense information on social media platforms, Mr. Teixeira enabled hundreds of members of his online chat groups, including individuals it was clear to him were located overseas, to further disseminate national defense information across the internet.
Teixeira was arrested at his mother's house and later admitted to these charges, including violations of the Espionage Act and transmission of classified material. Following a federal court case in Boston, he accepted a plea deal which would see him with 11 years in prison.
This guilty plea brings accountability, and it brings a measure of closure to a chapter that created profound harms for our nation's security.
Prosecutors of Teixeira want U.S. District Judge Indira Talwana to sentence him to up to 16 years in prison. His sentencing will be September 27th.
Hello, this is Francisco Mendoza reporting for GSU News here at the United Center, where we sat down and talked to Bulls PA announcer Tim Sinclair. Tim Sinclair is the voice behind the microphone, serving as the public address announcer for the Chicago Bulls. This season marks his 4th year captivating the audience with his enthusiasm and dedication. Sinclair's journey as a public address announcer wasn't one that he expected, but with a passion for sports, he seamlessly transitioned into his role, bringing his own flair to each game.
It was an accident for me, quite honestly. I thought I was going to be an architect. That was my plan for my life. And I got into my freshman year of college and quickly realized I happen to know somebody who worked in radio, and he gave me a job. And so that's what started me on the path of using my voice for a living.
As the Bulls continue their quest for greatness on the court, Sinclair remains a constant, providing the soundtrack to every exciting moment and ensuring that fans leave the United Center with memories that last a lifetime.
I went to one game as a kid. I was a junior in high school. My basketball team came to the United Center, saw Michael Jordan. We heard the intros, and I remember that to this day. And I know most people get to come one time in their life, like I did. And so for me, this is an opportunity to hopefully make the trip special for those people who get to come here one time in their life.
For GSU News, this has been Francisco Mendoza.
On March 20th, hobbyists and gamers from around the world gathered at the Renaissance Schaumburg Convention Center in order to participate in this year's annual Adepticon convention. This year marks the 21st anniversary of the gaming convention, and it is expected that this will be one of the biggest events in the convention's history. Adepticon is hosted every year around Chicagoland and is the country's biggest miniature tabletop gaming convention. Vendors and attendees flock to the area in order to participate in game tournaments, face-off and painting competitions, debut new games, and show off the fruits of their creative labor. Warhammer 40,000 and Dungeons & Dragons are two of the most popular games on display at Adepticon, but many other games and hobbies are represented as well.
This is a pretty standard convention, I'd say. It seems like it's run by a lot of passionate people who enjoy the craftsmanship behind Warhammer and other such games.
The vendor hall is home to all sorts of different shops and artists, from industry giants to indie studios, all selling games, hobby supplies, and other board game miscellanea.
It's my first time at this convention. I'm gonna go broke.
The convention is also host to the Golden Demon Competition, a series of painting competitions held by Games Workshop, the company behind the popular Warhammer franchise. Expert painters each submit a model to be judged across many different categories, like Best Single Miniature or Best Diorama.
The amount of time and skill that these individuals have is incredible. There's a couple YouTubers I watch that have models in the cases right now, fantastic, and just this whole convention is great.
Adepticon is historically a fun time for gamers and non-gamers alike, and as it is free to attend, they encourage anyone to stop by and take a walk around the convention floor. Next year, Adepticon will be held in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, from March 26th through March 30th. For GSUTV, this is Graham Taylor. On October 1st, the two vice president hopefuls faced off against one another in the first vice presidential debate of the 2024 election. Democrat Tim Walz and Republican J.D. Vance took to their podiums to make their case and vie for the attention of the American public. The VP debate was not quite as substantial or dramatic as the presidential debate, but there was still plenty to take away from the event. For the most part, the two main participants kept it civil and aimed most of their criticisms and attacks towards the presidential nominees and not at each other. Despite an initial surge of popularity and a strong introduction to the Democratic ticket, Walz had a somewhat rocky start to the debate, misspeaking on a few points and making a few inaccurate remarks. Vance, on the other hand, who debuted to historic low polling numbers, which he still maintains, did manage to come across as much more likable than he has in the recent past. Before long, the two found a comfortable rhythm, and the debate carried on in a mostly level-headed manner. Not a lot of actual political talk from the two candidates deviated much from the promises Harris or Trump have been campaigning on, when they did decide to answer the questions asked of them. Both men spent a non-insignificant amount of time giving non-answers or avoiding topics altogether. The conclusion of the vice president debates is the end of the formal debates of the 2024 election, as Trump declined another debate with Harris for later in October. Election Day is quickly approaching on November 5th, and will finally draw this chaotic election cycle to a close. For GSU-TV, this is Graham Taylor. In the last week of September, the mainland United States experienced the deadliest hurricane in the Atlantic since Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Helene, which began forming on September 24th, made landfall on September 26th along Florida's Big Bend region, the western coast of the state where the Panhandle meets the rest of the continental states. From there, it tore a path north through Florida, the Carolinas, Georgia, and the Virginias, with some regions of the Midwest even affected by the storm's influence before it finally dissipated. Over the course of 3 days, strong winds and heavy rains battered the southern states. Catastrophic flooding due to rainfall engulfed many of the low-lying areas and valleys in the Appalachian region. Entire towns were cut off for days following the storm after floodwaters submerged roads and collapsed bridges. Millions in the affected area lost access to power and clean water for days after the hurricane finally passed. The intensity of the winds was strong enough to spawn multiple tornadoes throughout the storm's course, adding further to the destruction. Some of the winds generated by Helene were strong enough to leave parts of Indiana and Ohio under high wind advisories. Evacuation orders enacted prior to the storm helped to alleviate some of the destruction caused by the system. A majority of Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina counties were placed under hurricane warnings, while some areas also declared states of emergency before Helene reached the coast. The storm finally dissolved while still over the United States on September 29th. At least 242 fatalities so far have been recorded as a direct result of Hurricane Helene, with at least an additional 200 individuals still missing as well. While the storm has passed, rescue workers and other state responders have been active in the area, helping to rescue those still trapped, distribute supplies, and to begin repairing the billions in damages Helene has already caused. For GSU-TV, this is Graham Taylor. Just 2 weeks after being devastated by Hurricane Helene, Florida is also experiencing the wrath of Hurricane Milton. The Category 3 hurricane, which made landfall on October 9th, has carved a path of destruction through central Florida, hitting Tampa Bay and St. Petersburg, two cities which have not seen a hurricane in over a century. In the week leading up to the arrival of Milton, Florida residents began evacuating from the southern parts of the state in an attempt to reach safer, more inland areas. While the evacuation was in progress, state workers were attempting to clean the debris and wreckage from the previous hurricane with the hopes of limiting further destruction from Milton. While the damage could have been a lot worse, thanks to the efforts of state workers, the compliance of citizens heeding the evacuation orders, and the fluctuation of the storm system dropping the initial Category 5 hurricane down to a Category 3, The impact of the storm was somewhat mitigated. However, the destruction as a result of Milton was still widespread. The heavy winds of the storm system led to an outbreak of tornadoes in Florida, which broadened the area affected by Milton. After the storm had passed, millions were left without power, and the city of St. Petersburg, as well as others, were under a water boil order until early the following week. As a result of the two back-to-back storms, Florida's tourism industry has taken a hit. While the state is no stranger to storms, the two powerful hurricanes hitting in such a short time caused many delayed and canceled flights, as well as closures of entire airports and theme parks, though in the weekends following Milton's landfall, most airport services had resumed. As of October 11th, at least 17 deaths were confirmed as a result of Hurricane Milton. The storm has passed, but many dangers are still present as downed power lines and stagnant water fill the streets of Florida. As evacuees start to make their way back home, many unfortunately no longer have a home to return to. Rebuilding and cleaning efforts are once again underway throughout the state. For GSUTV, this is Graham Taylor. In the full year following the October 7th attack, Israel's disproportionate retaliation against Palestine and the genocide of Gaza has gone almost completely unchecked. Despite the IDF breaking international laws, continuously perpetuating war crimes, and escalating conflict in the area, their ongoing hostilities have yet to be impeded, and leaked confidential documents show that Israel is instead planning on expanding their war. The documents, which leaked on October 18th and are dated October 15th and 16th, show a plan for the Israeli military to retaliate against Iran after a recent trading of blows between the two countries. The two documents describe plans to reallocate munitions within Israel, as well as details regarding air-to-surface ballistic strikes and military drone operations in retaliation for Iran's missile strike on Israel that occurred on October 1st. Iran's missile bombardment itself followed Israel's pager attack and other hostilities from September. The documents also show that the United States is not aware of any plans for Israel to use nuclear weapons. Israel has never confirmed on the record whether or not they have a stockpile of nuclear weapons, but the leaks show that Israel's possession of such weapons is a possibility that the United States is aware of. The documents are attributed to the National Security Agency and the United States Geospatial Intelligence Agency, two U.S.-based intelligence groups. The documents were posted to a channel on Telegram by a user claiming that the documents were leaked by a member of the U.S. Department of Defense. The contents of both documents also indicate that the U.S. is heavily involved in these attack preparations. The IDF, as well as the FBI, have made no official statements on the leaks at this time, though the United States has opened an investigation into finding the source of the leak. Despite many recent successful assassinations of Hamas leaders and already killing almost 50,000 Palestinians, Israel is determined to keep the war going. For GSUTV, this is Graham Taylor.
Four legs are better than one.
How fast do you think you can get that thing to go without killing it?
Only one way to find out. Nice Horsey.
Hey.
Nice Horsey. Surprise! Horsey! I love Horsey!
Welcome to Hollywood Buzz, your source for the latest news in the entertainment industry. I'm your host, Graham Taylor, and today we'll be looking at upcoming releases, celebrity news, and the latest from Hollywood. Let's get started. Venom, The Last Dance, the final film of this trilogy starring one of Marvel's most loved alien anti-heroes, was the highest grossing film of the final week of October, ousting Smile 2 from the number 1 place. Despite claiming the top spot, The Last Dance debuted to box office lows for the series. While critic reviews are also at a low point for the franchise, Venom is still a big hit with fans. American singer and actor Kris Kristofferson passed away at the end of September on the 28th at the age of 88. No cause was given, and he passed while at his home with his family. Kristofferson began his career as a musician before moving onto the big screen and starring in films such as A Star is Born, and eventually becoming one of the Highwaymen, a country supergroup that consisted of Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, and Waylon Jennings. Kristofferson retired in 2021. Liam Payne, a former member of the boy band One Direction, tragically passed away on October 16th after falling 3 stories from a hotel balcony in Argentina. He was 31. While the death is being ruled as an accident and nothing investigated so far shows any foul play, reports indicate that Payne had multiple substances in his body at the time of the incident. Following the accident, fans from all over the world hosted vigils in his memory, and an upcoming collaboration featuring Payne has been indefinitely postponed. Phil Lesh, a founding member and the bassist for the Grateful Dead, also passed away this month. He was 84 when he passed away, though no cause was given. Lesh will be forever known for his intricate and unconventional bass playing that helped elevate the Grateful Dead's music into the public perception. The final stretch of Taylor Swift's Eras Tour is returning to America for its last set of shows, but the return isn't without issue. The tour series, which is now the highest grossing tour of all time, has always been wildly popular, but that popularity comes with a cost. Bots and resellers have led to sky-high ticket prices for the sold-out shows, disappointing many fans. On top of that, many of the cities hosting these shows are experiencing issues of their own in anticipation of the crowds. New Orleans began clearing a homeless encampment near the Caesars Superdome, one of the venues for an upcoming show, before a judge issued an order preventing the camp from being cleared out. Jon Stewart, the former and current host of Comedy Central's The Daily Show, announced that he would continue to work on the show throughout 2025. Stewart originally left the show in 2015 after hosting for over 15 years at that point, before returning to the anchor's chair in February of 2024 every Monday to help cover the presidential race. While Stewart will continue to only host on Monday nights as he has been over the past year, he will continue to work as an executive producer on the show as well. Universal Studios announced that the opening day for their 3rd Florida theme park, Universal Epic Universe, would be May 22nd, 2025. The theme park will open with 5 themed areas, including areas based on classic Universal monsters and the How to Train Your Dragon franchise, as well as finally bringing the popular Super Nintendo World to the East Coast. Tickets for the park are now on sale. For GSUTV, this has been Graham Taylor with the latest Hollywood buzz.